What's going on, everybody? I hope everybody's doing very well. This is Travis Witherspoon from Carter Cow Capital, helping you fight for your financial freedom throughout the forex market. And I'm going to end up saying this right now. I am a very good trader, but I didn't even expect what I was going to end up seeing based off of the stuff that we ended up talking about last Friday. And I get into that very quickly, but there was a lot of big moves that you ended up getting into on Thursday night in our last session before calling the weekend and everything else like that. And the market just said, hey, you're right on all of them. We're going to go through those. Hopefully, the people that end up watching in that last session end up pulling the trigger and end up taking those trades because there's a lot of big movement. There's a lot of stuff that's going on. There's a lot of scary news as well. They're talking about what's happening with MetaTrader 4 and MetaTrader 5 and the potential of not being able to use that anymore. I'm going to talk about some other alternatives when it comes down to being able to use that. But with that being said, super excited to be able to have everybody on. I'm going to make sure that everyone can be able to see me when it comes down to what we do for our live trading. If you're not familiar with what I do, my name is Travis Witherspoon. I am this is what I end up doing pretty much, hopefully full time in the near future. But this is another session of Trade with Travis. We end up going about 30 to 45 minutes to be able to take a look at what's happening with the market, see if there's any other trading opportunities to be able to get into, and being able to set up a plan for everyone else to be able to place in the trade. So if you are live, do me a favor, make sure that you end up clicking on that subscribe button. Make sure that you end up going into the bottom of this area where it has my obviously my company name, and click on that red brand and make sure that you end up subscribing to that as well. Definitely would like that. We're slowly starting to build a large community and every click counts when it comes down to that. I think everybody knows that, but super excited to be able to go through everything. So let's go ahead and get into the disclaimer, and then after that, we can go ahead and get into trading. I'm not a CTA, so I'm not going to tell you whether to buy or to sell. What I'm going to do is teach you education, and from the education, you can be able to make your own informed decision. Now, understand that trading involves risk. That means there's risk to being able to make money. Also, there's risk to being able to lose money. So please keep that in mind. And understand that past performance is not indicative of future results, which means that if you end up making money yesterday, it's not promised that you can end up making money today. Like I said, super excited to be able to talk to everybody. And let's see, I want to make sure that everybody can be able to get this link onto the red brand real quick. Let's see. Bam, bam. And here. Okay, so if you are watching live, do me a favor, make sure that you end up clicking on that chat button. Make sure that you end up saying, hey. It's always good being able to talk to people when it comes down to that. I'm going to write hey inside of here just to be able to start the conversation. If there's a pair that you would like to be able to take a look at, I have no problem being able to take a look at anything that is going on with the market, because obviously it makes everybody make money when it comes down to being able to find opportunities. So we're going to talk about a couple things. The first thing we're going to talk about is US 30 and what's actually happening with that. We need to get into the economic calendar real quick just to be able to ensure that everybody can be able to know what's actually happening today. So today is expected to be a slow day. We have Chicago Fed national activity, and President Lagarde is going to end up speaking today. Other than that, going into this week, Tuesday, we got President Lagarde speaking again. We got non-defense capital goods and aircrafts. I think that's going to end up being somewhat of a key, especially what's going on overseas, and being able to see what might end up happening with Russia. We may end up starting to be able to see an increase on that number. If there's an increase on that number, especially when it comes down to like NAS 100 and US, well, actually XPX 500, you'll see basically probably a more of an uptick when it comes down to that. Bank of Japan is going to end up having a monetary policy meeting minutes. Wednesday, it's not going to end up being pretty much anything. Thursday we have GDP annualized for the United States, and then on Friday, which will end up being the last trading day of the month, we got GDP for the pound. Okay, so you got to keep that in mind as we go through and take a look at this. I am going to go backwards this time because I want to make sure that I am taking a look at every opportunity that we have with the index pairs, because the index pairs have been very hot when it comes down to movement. So let's talk about what we ended up doing last week and the trades that I was talking about last week compared to what ended up happening before. So um, we ended up talking about this large built up consolidation. I ended up saying there was two blocks of consolidation that kind of matched up with what we ended up having in June of this previous year, or June of this year. What ended up happening was that the market ended up creating a consolidation resistance and consolidation support between 30,950, and then after that 30,560. Market ended up breaking. That was the first move. Ended up getting out of that move a little bit early last week when it came down to that. But on Friday, we talked about a couple opportunities. The first opportunity was this. When this market ended up breaking below 30,000, we ended up saying that this market could fall down to 29,850 and be able to do it in a hurry, but also be able to do it safely. End up cashing out on that trade. The market actually ended up falling all the way down to 29,400. We ended up having another trade at 29,500, but I did not personally pull the trigger on that one. So we ended up going 1 for 1 when it came down to that trade, but we could have got a lot more when it came down to that movement. But overall, if you end up taking that second trade that I ended up talking about, in which that was something that I ended up talking about in my academy class, if you end up taking that trade, then essentially what you would have got out at would have been right. It would have been right there. So for the people that end up getting out of that trade early, once again, congratulations. Or getting out of the trade what we end up getting at, or we end up talking about before. Congratulations, great job on being able to make that move. Now, what is happening right now? We can see that the market is starting to build out consolidation. We see that the market is actually tried to make a move to the downside a little bit earlier, where we end up having a natural support at this particular point in time at 29,380. I'm going to say 29,350 to be safe, because the market fell down about 15 minutes before we actually got started, right below this position before being able to pop up. So we have right here, right here, right here as our supports. Natural resistance will be right here, and we've seen the beginning of it being made right there. So as this market starts to build out consolidation for today and maybe for the next few days, I think this is going to be a very big position to be able to know what's going to end up being the market sentiment. If it falls down and it breaks, then this is the largest position that we're going to see all year for its overall movement to the downside. This market could be able to fall down to 28,520. This market could be able to fall down to 28,520 in a hurry. Now, the question is, how am I getting those numbers? Well, if we go back even between the summertime, you're not going to end up seeing this information. I had to go all the way down to the 4-hour position and start taking a look at what ended up happening before to be able to get those gaps when it came down to movement. 28,520 is basically this last support that we ended up having before the market really took off at the early portions of November of 2020. Then from there, if the market falls down again, we have another chance that the market could fall down to 26,220, 620 when it comes down to that movement. So we're getting back to even in early 2020 numbers when it came down to what happened in the pandemic for this market actually falling. So this market went from being very parabolic to now really starting to be able to reset and kind of get back into those zones. The question is this market going to fall back inside of these overall areas, which means that we have to look at very old data from 2 years ago to be able to see how the market is going to end up reacting off of that. It's something to be able to pay attention to. It really is. But I have 2 orders that are set up right now. We're going to go ahead and talk about those. First order that is set up, and I have it a pending order. I triggered the trade a little bit earlier, but I got out. I got out of it, I want to say probably about 2 minutes before we got started inside of this movement. Give me 1 second. We got started. Okay, make sure. Okay, cool. You got 2 orders. One I have at 29,350. If the market ends up breaking below these overall lows, my stop losses can end up being very high, but I have it 1 to 2 risk reward ratio that I feel 1 to 2.5 risk reward ratio that I feel pretty comfortable about. Take profit end up being at 28,520 for the overall take profit. Stop loss will end up being at 29,350. for the movement in that one. I want to make sure that I place in that trade and lock that in. So I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. If the market falls down again and keeps on making that movement to the downside, then I go ahead and take the trade. It seemed like the buyers, especially at 6 o'clock, started to push up this move. But I'm going to go ahead and place in this pending order again to ensure that if the market does fall, I'm going to end up being in. I got 29. Let's see. I actually hope that the market pops up again, uh, at least for right now. Um, Not interested in being able to. I don't want to get faked out. Obviously, I don't think anybody wants to get faked out, but I'm going to say 29,350 end up being right below these overall lows that got created this morning. 29,400 will actually be a great level to be able to get in, but 29,350 I think will be a safer level to be able to get in. And with the anticipation of the market basically being able to make a drop. Uh, stop loss Stop loss on this one. I'm going to end up making it relatively high, so please keep that in mind. But it ended up being at 29. 29,680. Take profit will end up being at 28,520. 28,520. If this market makes this push to the downside, it ends up breaking on this movement. Uh, it will be because of news. Keep that in mind. It will be because of news. There will be something from a news perspective that will make the market move that low. So yes, we're going big fish hunting when it comes down to that movement. Anytime that we go big fish hunting, then that means that we're risking 5% of the account or more, depending on the actual move. This is easily going to end up being one of the bigger moves that we end up taking. But we've seen the market basically end up having big movements to the downside. That's been 13, 14, 1500 points at this particular point in time. So it wouldn't surprise me if the market ends up making another move like that. Now, obviously, if my stop loss was a little bit tighter, I could be able to increase my lot size and be able to go from there. But with that being said, I got to keep in mind personally that this market has failed a lot over the course of the last few days, but we got a lot more information that is coming out that could affect how the market is going to end up reacting as well. So, uh, depending on how the market kind of plays out, depending on what may happen, I may place a stop loss basically inside of the consolidation box, but above the VWAP. But until then, there's really nothing to be able to do. Now, the second question is, would I buy if the market ends up popping up to the upside? That could be something that could be considered for most people, especially if they believe that the market is just going to end up going bullish. If you are considering that, the only trade that I will look at being able to get out, take a trade would be up to basically 30,000 again, seeing that the market will end up retapping 30,000 before ultimately being able to fall down from this high volume node. Now, stop loss and everything else on that will end up being a little bit more tighter. It will have to be below the VWAP. Um, wherever that market may end up being. Wherever that may end up being when that happens. So the upside trade, I'm not looking at being able to make anything yet. But I do know that if we end up taking a profit, that profit will end up being at 30,000 first before being able to take any other move at this particular point in time. So looking at that, but staying aware that that could potentially happen. Now, if you're in the sense of being able to say that you believe that the market is just going to end up being bearish and it will end up staying bearish, then I would look at being able to take a trade and using strategy 4, in which you basically just taking a trade at the resistance. But you wouldn't know, and personally, I wouldn't know that that would happen unless you end up having an alert. So we're going to set an alert up here at 29,660. The market ends up getting to that point. We'll know that we are at the resistance area of US 30. I want to count down to that movement. Okay, so I got that set up and just wait for that to be able to see what happens. Okay, so building out a consolidation, got a movement from there, but end up making money on this one on Friday. We're just trying to see if there's another opportunity that we can be able to get into. As long as we're in the middle of this area, obviously we're not going to trade it, but we'll see how everything kind of plays out. All right, now another Another big swing, another big area where another big vortex area that we can be able to take advantage of will end up being German 40. End up taking a trade on German 40 as well. We end up doing that on Friday, where the market end up breaking out of 12,005. It was 12,515. Take profit. They end up getting hit with that 12,450. Once we end up hitting that profit, market basically end up bouncing back up inside of this overall area. Currently right now at this particular point, market ended up rejecting and then falling down again. Fell all the way down to 12,160. Once it fell down to 12,160, it started to be able to build out this strong consolidation from there. Going back to what I ended up saying with US 30 and how we have to look almost back to 2020 when it comes down to this movement. You don't have to look as far when it comes down to this one, but the move is even bigger. The move will end up being at 10,390. The reason why I got 10,390, that is the Fibonacci D extension. That's the Fibonacci D extension of this overall movement to the downside. Another area where you could look at potentially being able to get out before that actually ends up happening would end up being. Let me undo that. Take that back. Would actually end up being the natural support of this large consolidation that ended up happening from 2017 all the way to 2020 before the market actually ended up popping, which we ended up being at 11,390. So we could say 11,400 is a very strong support of area that the market will have to clear first. So that will probably end up being take profit one, take profit two, will end up being 10,390 if the market does fall down to that position. But keep in mind, when it comes down to Fibonacci's, the market is now officially below the B. And because it's now officially below the B, then that means that the next move that we're going to end up getting off of this. What's up? Oh, you scared the heck out of me. Okay. Um, Give me one quick second. Um, the next move off of this one, the next retracement off of this one will end up being the last official big move that we end up seeing before, or be like the last line of defense before we end up seeing the market truly drop. So once again, news is going to end up, there's going to have to be some news that's going to end up making the market basically be able to fall down. But whatever that news may end up being, will probably end up being a catalyst to be able to have this market basically retrace all of the movement back from 2 years ago. Based off of this movement. So I got a pending order here at 12,160 with a stop loss of 12,350. And from that movement, the take profit on that one, I have at 10,390, and obviously I have another trade that's at 11,400. That is the areas where I would like to personally get out on this overall movement. If that happens, obviously, that'll be a trade that'll be a long-term swing trade that you can be able to stay in for a little bit. But until then, obviously, we got to sit up there and be a little bit more patient to see how this move kind of reacts off this one. So that is the order for this one. I am going to end up waiting on that one to see how this market kind of plays out. But 11,400 will be the first position where I will look at being able to get out first. And then after that, if it breaks below, then you have that position. Let's go to NAS 100 real quick. NAS 100, we end up having a sale on Friday. We end up getting in at 11,450. Take profit was at 11,370. Stop loss was above 11,530. Market fell down, continued that position, fell down even more. We built out another consolidation. We have a new order. It's probably going to end up taking a little bit more time compared to the other ones just because of how slow NAS has been moving. But orders at 11,180 with a stop loss of 11,260. If the market falls below that, it ends up being at 11,100, where we would like to be able to get out on that overall potential move. XBX 500 did not take a trade on it, but it did fall down and hit that vortex area and be able to go from there. I want to talk about oil. Oil was the biggest mover that we ended up having for a win. We talked about this for a while. It took a long time to be able to play out, but we talked about it for a while. We said that oil was at a particular position to where it's going through this downward channel from a weekly perspective. The market had a chance to be able to fall down to the 618 based off of the daily, because the market it was just showing signs that it was going to fall down to that area. So you take a look at that from a daily perspective. Uh, we've seen that the A was broken based off of this movement, and the Fibonacci D extension based off of that King's Crown to the downside was at 77.11. So we end up placing in our orders with the thought process that could potentially happen. We end up seeing, based off of the hour, we end up having three major consolidations that were built up. This last major consolidation ended up having a resistance at 82.50. We end up placing in our order at 82.50 with our stop loss at 87. When that happened on Friday, the market ended up basically blowing through that overall area in which that was expected, based off of the low volume nodes that we was looking at. It ended up hitting our position at 77.11 a little bit earlier this morning. So if you end up taking that trade, you end up hitting profit off of that move. Congratulations to everybody when it came down to that one. And the last trade that we end up taking was pound yen, where we end up having pretty much that same order. We end up having a take profit. Wrong chart. Let's see. We end up having our order where we want to be able to get out at 154. And we end up taking that trade, same deal, 159 all the way down to 154. Hit, take profit, big rush to the downside, and then after that, the market kind of puts back up. So we got the game plan for US 30. We had the game plan for what's happening with DAX. Make sure that you end up placing in those orders. I'm going to end up coming back here today a little bit later on, being able to talk about some of those trades, especially at 9 o'clock, to see how the market kind of reacts. I think today is going to end up being one of those days where we might end up having a little bit of wacky movement. But keep in mind, if it falls back inside of consolidation, exit and re-enter your trade, and you'll be in a better position to be able to make a movement off of this. If you like what I end up doing, click on that boost button. It always helps out the community and everything else like that when it comes down to movement. I will have a video talking about what may end up happening with MetaTrader 4 and MetaTrader 5, and some thought processes on what you can be able to do to be able to use TradingView as a strong advantage of being able to do that and not have to worry about anything else. But like always, plan your trade your plan. I see each and every one of y'all in the next video. Take it easy.